people who have built something from scratch. And that's one of the things that I think is the hardest part about being an entrepreneur is you literally have to know how to do everything, and you don't, so you have to learn literally everything. I mean, when we were just getting to know each other before and we were talking about the podcast and the mic and the sound, I've had to become an expert in sound. I'm far from an expert, but in sound quality. What does that look like? You need a special mic. What about, lighting and video and all this stuff? So I connected with a couple of them, and they've been really helpful, really open to sharing what their journey was, because we're not in the same business. None of us are in the same business. But when you start your own company, you have to go through a similar process. And it's not like you can leverage your family and friends, because unless you've built something from scratch, you just have no idea.
They just don't understand the same. It's not the same.
No, no advice that they read online could possibly guide you. For me, getting plugged into entrepreneurs here that are open to sharing their experience has really been extremely helpful. And they introduced me to people that they found helpful along the way. So it's really a chain of events that I'm definitely still figuring out.
You work nationally. Your customer is the mom, but you really need the schools. And that's pretty interesting. What you're doing is taking that space that is just sort of dead or underutilized, I guess is the right term, and giving businesses a way to now bring it back online and generate some revenue through that. So have you been able to, and you work nationally, so from here, how has that been connecting to these different schools in different cities, different states? How do you get to your customer, or how do you get to that resource? Have you been able to do that?
So one of the things, so you're absolutely right in terms of it being a platform that's both business to consumer and business to business. And we have a similar challenge that Airbnb and Lyft and any marketplace platform has, in the fact that our end customer is moms and dads at the end of the day. However, unless we have enough schools participating on the business side, there's not much to see. So the first thing that we have to do is we have to educate and bring our schools on board. And, that's been a challenge, because we're really educating them on something, a new product that they haven't done before.
You have to really kind of explain to them how they can utilize your tool to generate revenue, because they hadn't even thought about that yet.
No, they hadn't thought about it. And, there is the Parent Day Out service. And in addition to that, there's also our school profiles, which we've designed specifically with them in mind, so they can showcase themselves in the right way that will help the consumers make a decision on whether or not their school is the right one for them. So in terms of that in and of itself, it's really best in class information. So we're really proud of the way that we've designed the profiles. And then, telling them, especially because of COVID. So before COVID, there was always a problem with moms, particularly, where even if they had full-time childcare, they needed a break every once in a while, on an evening, on a weekend. I mean, I've been there. I know exactly how that feels.
There's a point at which you're like, it's safety for everyone needs me.
Exactly. Like, everyone needs to recognize mom needs a couple of hours. And, it reminds me actually when I was doing my research early on into the process, I went around New York City playgrounds on Saturdays and Sundays with my clipboard, and I wanted to survey parents to see. I asked a simple question, and it was, if you had a couple of hours to yourself, what would you do? And you'd see some moms, I'd be like, oh God, I'd love to have a date with my husband, or, go to a spin class and things like that. But what was most shocking to me was the blank stares and literally tears in mom's eyes because no one had ever asked them the question.
Like that was so far outside of their hope.
It was like...
couldn't even envision it.
Exactly. They weren't asking themselves that question. So I saw really a lot of moms who were suffering in silence about how stressed life is. And particularly if you're a working mom. And yes, you have, Monday, your regular childcare, but what about the errands and everything that packs, that stacks up throughout the week that you still have to maintain? You need time to do that.
And that's challenging with kids towing, and
it's impossible. I mean, I remember the first time. So when my daughter was born, within a couple of weeks, my mom had come to visit. I didn't have extended family nearby to help me. And I think that's more and more common where people are just not living as close to their parents, and you don't have the extended family that you might have relied on. Your neighbors, you sometimes barely know. So it's not like you can count on the guy down the block to watch the kids. And when my mom came down to visit and I had actually a couple of hours to myself, I was like, oh my God, I have, part of me just wants to go to sleep, but that would mean that I'm still in the house. But I was dreaming of just going to Home Goods again and like smelling every candle and just roaming free. And what I ended up doing was I went to Costco because I just didn't even know what else to do with my time. And that was, those little tiny things of just being able to shop by yourself without the screaming baby and things like that. I already felt like just a huge sense of relief. And that's a lot what moms need. They especially today, they don't want to be taking their kids to the grocery store. They don't want to take them anywhere that they don't have to.
Right. Now, do you work with the schools in how to showcase themselves? You may have already mentioned that, but where you really say, okay, this is what a mom is really wanting to see, and so we need to film, or we need to take a picture here.
Sure.
Do you help schools with that?
I mean, absolutely. We built the tool specifically for parents, right, to answer all their questions and to help them navigate through those childcare challenges. But at the same exact time, we needed to make sure that it's a tool that works for the schools. So we want to be able to showcase them, give them a way to showcase what makes them great. So things like pictures, obviously, but even that's a challenge because not everyone takes great pictures. So how can we help you highlight what your school looks like? How can we help you showcase the different features of your of your programs, and asking the questions that parents care about, but turning it into a way that schools can easily select the options, and it's not going to be an overwhelming process. We've made it so seamless and so easy for them to do it, and we're giving them a great starting place. We already have a lot of information, and they're there to add color. They're there to differentiate themselves, and really show what makes them special.
Okay.
Yeah.
One of the things I want to ask is if you're, our listeners are that business owner, founder, who've heard Texas is a good thing, but as we mentioned, Texas is a really big state and can be overwhelming. You kind of centered up on Dallas because of a former experience. So what's one tip you would give someone who is listening to this and going, I want to go to Texas, I want to explore the option of going to Texas? What's one tip you might give them to get them further down that journey?
I have 2 tips.
Even better. Overachiever. I love it.
The first tip is go to the grocery store like I did. See how the people interact because it says a lot about the neighborhood. The second thing is on our platform, you can see we've actually created, it's not just school information, but within each school profile, we have a neighborhood highlight section. And that neighborhood highlight section highlights amazing information about the congressional district, about the climate, home ownership. I mean, it's really been a fantastic tool to get to know a new neighborhood. And we even have activities that are mapped out nearby. So if you want to live next to a Starbucks or a Trader Joe's, you can see what schools are nearby.
So tell me where they go for that, because that sounds awesome. With the number of new people coming into Texas, that's a true resource.
Yeah, I mean, that was really one of the driving factors, because we recognize that a lot of times when people are looking for childcare, it is the same time that they're looking for maybe a new place to live as they're expanding their family. And we wanted to make sure that when people were checking out the, childcare in a certain area that maybe they're not familiar with, they had a tool to know what that neighborhood was like if they'd never been there. And that was hard to get to.
Fascinating. So where do they go? What is their website?
Yep. So go to parentdayout.com and you can search by your zip code. And then you can just click on any of the school profiles, scroll all the way down to the neighborhood highlight section, and you'll see all cool sorts of facts.
Okay. Now, do you also do like the public school
We actually
information?
do.
You pull that in as well?
Yep. So we have filters where if you're looking for a public school nearby, we have those as well. We have private schools and licensed childcare centers.
Jessica, one question I had for you, you talked about the importance of moms having some time, and talk to me about the opportunities for a company to actually offer this, and especially for a working mom. We talk about it in Fairview. The thing that you can give people beyond bonus money and everything else is time. And whether that's reducing their commute or giving those opportunities. I could see where, is there an opportunity for me to give like Parent Day Out a gift to my employees? If I have 50 or 60 or 100 employees and I want to give a bonus or a gift of that, is there a way for that to happen in your platform?
Yeah, and there's really two ways. One, we have gift cards coming soon. So while you're online at Walmart or Target and you want, you have a mom that is going through a tough time or could just need a fun time, you can pick up a Parent Day Out gift card. Obviously, it'll be available online as well. In addition to that, though, we're working with corporations to include Parent Day Out as part of their employee benefits package. So whether they're looking for help in navigating, researching their child care as a resource, we can do that. And we also are packaging Parent Day Out sessions where employers can offer X amount of hours to that employee for the year, which now, especially because so many employees have been working remotely, and it's had the biggest impact of people who are now working remotely are women that are working with young kids at home. And, I've seen headlines all over the place around the fact that COVID and working remotely while being a parent is presenting, you know what it's like to work from home as well. It's almost impossible, especially if you have a child that's, a year old, and employers are extremely invested in ensuring that their employees that are working from home especially have the tools to make sure that they're still productive. So Parent Day Out is, yes, it could be for a date night and to run your errands and stuff like that, but the urgent need is to help moms work from home.
And unfortunately moms have it disproportionately.
Yes.
My wife and I both work from home. COVID hasn't been that big of a change from us working at home, except that our kids, and even I have kids, our kids are older. We talked about, 11 and 13. Yet when there was a need, they almost never asked me. Like we're literally on opposite ends of the house, and they always ask their mom. And not that I wouldn't help them. It's just their first thought was, I'm going to go ask mom.
Right.
And then she would say, go ask your dad. I'm in the middle of a phone call.
And it's very hard as a mom to say, no, I'm busy right now.
Oh, my wife rarely does, unless she absolutely can't help herself.
It's almost against our DNA or something like that. We can't, if our kid needs help, everything stops.
And it doesn't matter what that help is. It could be where's the milk, and
exactly.
It's in the refrigerator where it always is.
It's usually something like that. So you're right in the sense that working moms have been disproportionately impacted because of the new, COVID and work from home, remote working arrangements. And in fact, sadly, a lot of moms are just rethinking whether or not they belong in the workforce.
Wow.
Yes, because they can't do both. They can't do both.
That could
Not without
create
help.
a huge talent shortage if we lose those.
I mean, this is
So really what you're offering is a way for the corporate structure to help ensure or protect against losing some of their most valuable employees by giving them just these little breaks. And it goes back to this mental health and